So I want to talk about evil. And we know that evil exists, right? It's real, it's destructive, it can plague our lives and our society. And it doesn't matter whether you're a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, an atheist. When we see evil, we understand what it is, right? It doesn't matter what we believe. And we see it in the news. We see these horrific stories. We see terror attacks and atrocities abroad. We see hate in our own cities and our own towns. We see dysfunction in politics, right? I mean, evil shows up in so many different ways. We also see it in people's individual stories, which I had a unique opportunity to tell in my new book, Playing with Fire, a modern investigation into demons, exorcism, and ghosts. And that was a heavy, heavy topic, and I'll get back to that. But despite the evidence of evil, it's so easy to misunderstand it, to sort of stop short, to ignore its presence, and to sort of embrace this false materialism. And it actually divorces us from reality when we do that, because the world around us is slipping into darkness and chaos. And we've seen this more and more and more. And the proposed solution isn't to turn back to God, it's to turn to the self. It's this bizarre idea that we can heal the very problems that we've created, that this lie that we've been sold, that we've been told, hey, whatever makes you happy, do it. Whatever feels good, do it. If we act on our whims, we'll be happy. But the culture of the self has created anything but happiness, anything but normality. And as time progresses, as we sort of sled further down that bumpy hill, confusion is really the word. And I've said this in my commentaries, but confusion has consumed us. We no longer see truth. We're unable to see that there's something deeper going on. And when I look at the Bible, I look at Ephesians 6:12, and it tells us, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. I mean, that is a heavy, heavy statement. And it's a remarkable one when you really stop and think about it, because we are so consumed with labeling people and political parties and movements as evil. And then we find ourselves in these little battles with other people. And I get it. Listen, ideological fights need to happen. There are important things that need to be discussed. But I think too many of us are forgetting that there is a deeper, darker evil at play, that there is something else happening that is impacting individuals, people, institutions. And it's an evil that actually feeds off of that culture of the self. It perpetuates lies. It distorts how we see ourselves and other people, what we think and believe. My goodness, it distorts how we interact with the world around us. And listen, I understand this all sounds crazy on the surface to be talking about Satan and evil, but when you look at Scripture, the devil is framed as an enemy who prowls around like a roaring lion, who hatches schemes and tempts, and is the prince of the world. And yet a lot of us, even Christians, live our lives as though there's no battle over good and evil, as though there's no enemy, as though there's no God even. And we live in this hyper-material way, and yet we risk really misunderstanding what's happening, the driving force behind so much negativity in our world. And that has a dire impact on us and the world around us, because when you understand evil and what it truly is, it actually points you back towards your need for good. Now, I'm not saying there's a demon under every rock or behind every corner, but what I am saying is that there is evil, and that there is a battle over good and evil, and that it is impacting the world around us, and that we are watching what happens when you remove God and you replace it with self, and it is feeding off of that. And so this is hyper-theological today, but if you want to avoid that evil, right, what do? This is what I write about in Playing with Fire. And again, the subtitle's A Modern Investigation into Demons, Exorcism, and Ghosts, and I talk about all of those topics, but I really look at cultural evil through a journalistic lens, right? And all of this is so fascinating. There is so much more going on around us than what we see. And when we fail to understand that battle over good and evil, and listen, atheists, I challenge you, pick up the book, Playing with Fire, read it. I would love to hear what you think. Christians, read it. We've got to understand the battle over good and evil. It runs so much deeper. And when we don't understand that battle, we put ourselves at risk to not comprehend what is going on around us. And really, truly, our world needs healing. And how do we get that healing? We cling to truth. And so check it out, Playing with Fire, wherever books are sold.